Well, let's dive right into this explainer and see if we can totally rethink our instinctive fear of the ultimate multi-legged predator. You know the drill. You flip on the bathroom light in the middle of the night, and out of nowhere, a shadow just darts across the tiles. Your immediate reaction is probably pure shock, followed by a sudden, intense urge to grab the nearest shoe. But today, by digging into some incredibly fascinating science, we are going to completely flip how you view these creatures. We're going to explore their biology, their ruthless hunting tactics, and the surprisingly complex secret lives of centipedes. First things first, we absolutely have to talk about the legs. While the common house centipede that you might spot lurking in your basement usually has around 15 pairs of legs, that number barely even scratches the surface of what this family is actually capable of. Depending on the species, some centipedes can have up to an astonishing 91 pairs of legs. Let that sink in. That is 382 individual limbs, all moving in perfectly synchronized, terrifying harmony. This massive limb count is a real hallmark of these ancient, formidable arthropods that have literally been surviving on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. Part 1. Anatomy of a predator. To really understand their biology, we first need to look at what exactly makes a centipede, which belongs to the class Chilopoda, tick. So, house centipedes, scientifically known as Scutigera coleoptrata, have a really weird evolutionary mismatch going on. Over millions of years of evolution, their rigid, fused back plates, which are called tergites, actually shrank and fused together. So they don't perfectly match up one-to-one with their 18 body segments or their 15 pairs of legs. It's a quirky bit of hard science, but it essentially means the house centipede has a relatively stiff, rigid body structure. It acts like a highly stable chassis for all those rapidly moving legs to push off of. But here is the absolute game changer. Their defining weapon, forcipules. When you look at the front of a centipede, you'd probably think you're staring at a terrifying set of jaws or fangs. But biologically speaking, those aren't mouth parts at all. Forcipules are actually a highly modified first pair of legs that evolved into venomous pincers, tucked right up under their head. They use these specialized venom-injecting leg fangs to strike, grasp their prey, and deliver a paralyzing dose of venom. Part 2. The art of the hunt. Because having venomous leg fangs is only half the equation, right? It's how they use them that makes them such ruthless hunters. Get this, a house centipede can dart across your walls at a staggering 0.4 meters per second. To put that into perspective for you, at their tiny scale, that is basically the equivalent of a human sprinting at highway speeds. And since they are mostly nocturnal hunters, they really don't rely much on eyesight. Instead, they depend heavily on their long, incredibly sensitive antenna to track down prey using just smell and tactile feedback in the dark. And what they do when they actually catch that prey? It is tactical genius. They don't just bite. They literally use all those legs to lasso and trap multiple insects at once like a living net. They also use automimicry, where their long back legs look exactly like their front antennae, which completely confuses predators about which end is the head. Some can even produce sound, a process called stridulation, but my absolute favorite tactic is their strategic striking. If a house centipede runs into something dangerous, like a wasp, it won't just stand and fight. It darts in, delivers a venomous bite with those forcipules, and immediately retreats to a safe distance, just waiting for the venom to do the lethal work before it comes back to dine. But hey, even apex predators sometimes find themselves backed into a corner. If a centipede becomes the prey and something grabs it by a leg, it uses a brilliant escape tactic. It just detaches the trapped leg and bolts. It's a biological magic trick that literally saves their lives. And scientists have noticed that later on, once they're safe, they'll casually groom their remaining legs, meticulously cleaning them by pulling them right through those venomous forcipules. Part 3. A surprising soft side. Because believe it or not, these ferocious venom-injecting hunters actually have a tender side that totally defies their monstrous reputation. Let's talk about their life cycle. They can actually live for a surprisingly long time, anywhere from 3 to 7 years. And when it comes time to reproduce, they don't engage in some brutal mating ritual. Instead, it is this elegant, highly choreographed, non-contact dance. The male and female will circle each other, gently tapping their antenna to communicate. After this delicate exchange, the male deposits a little packet of genetic material on the ground, and the female carefully retrieves it to fertilize her eggs. And this tender behavior isn't just a fluke. A really fascinating study looked at deep genomic data across 5 different centipede orders, leading to what's called the Amalpigiata hypothesis. Basically, this massive analysis confirms that tender behaviors, especially maternal brood care, are deeply ingrained evolutionary traits. Motherly instinct is quite literally a fundamental, hardwired part of the centipede's biological success. This leads to a very rare display for arthropods. While most bug mothers just lay their eggs and abandon them, centipede mothers will fiercely guard their newly hatched nymphs. Now, these babies are born looking like tiny little versions of the adults, but with fewer body segments and legs. The mother will actually coil her entire body around the young, protecting them from predators and keeping them clean until they undergo their first molts, gain their missing segments, and grow large enough to survive on their own.
Part 4. Housemates versus giants. Let's put our fear into context by contrasting the tiny hero living in your bathroom with its massive, highly venomous tropical cousins. So on one side, you have Pseudogyra coleoptrata, the house centipede, a yellow-gray blur with 15 pairs of legs that is entirely harmless to humans. In fact, it is basically free, highly efficient pest control, spending its nights hunting down the actual pests you hate: bedbugs, roaches, termites, and spiders. But on the other side, we have Scolopendra gigantea, a tropical apex predator from South America that packs a highly painful, medically significant bite.
And trust me, you'll be incredibly glad the house centipede tops out around an inch or two, because the Amazonian giant centipede can reach up to a terrifying 30 centimeters in length. That is nearly a foot long of heavily armored, highly aggressive, venomous arthropod that actively hunts small mammals, reptiles, and even bats. Yes, bats. So next time you spot a tiny house centipede, just appreciate the scale. Oh, and just a quick side note to clear up a super common point of confusion, please don't mistake our agile carnivorous hunters with millipedes. Millipedes belong to a totally different class called Diplopoda. They are cylindrical, they have 2 pairs of legs per segment rather than 1, and they're generally just slow-moving herbivores eating decaying plants. When they get threatened, a millipede just coils up into a spiral and emits a foul-smelling odor, which is completely different from a centipede, which will either fight back with venom or use its blistering speed to escape. Which brings us to our final thought for today. We've seen their incredible, specialized anatomy. We've learned all about their tactical genius when it comes to hunting down the actual pests that plague our homes, and we've uncovered their surprising, genetically ingrained devotion to their young. So the next time you see one dart across the floor, you kind of have to ask yourself, knowing everything we covered in this explainer today, will you ever squish a house centipede again? Or can we finally learn to coexist with these fascinating, misunderstood monsters? I'll leave that up to you. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.